So while I wait for some uploads and downloads and reloads and edits and all that to finish, I thought, you know what? Maybe I've been a little harsh on PGI. Nah. Maybe I can let them off a little bit. The reason I say this is because the MWO Online page recently updated with its, oh god, would it be third pack this year? Yeah, I think it's third pack this year. It might only be the second pack this year, but it's the second one in quite a short space of time, and this one is the Resistance pack. If you haven't already seen it, it's an Inner Sphere themed pack that features 4 classics of the original 3025 technical readout. And the light category, we have the Panther, which is amazing, the Enforcer, the Grasshopper, and finally we have the Zeus. All of these mechs are very popular designs from back in the day, and the Panther is by far my favourite light mech of the Inner Sphere, possibly of all Battletech, to be honest. And I think the artwork on this is again another triumph for the PGI team. These guys have no problem with producing some amazing concept art for the mechs. Frankly, if they were a company that made like a visual novel about Battletech, this is the kind of imagery you want for your mechs. But I still can't let them off the hook. We're still in a situation where MechWarrior still sits in a very precarious position for me. On the one hand, they seem to be getting their act together, but it just seems to be more of a damage control feature rather than a genuine want or need to apologise and be more communicative with the community. The pack is meant to be for those players who didn't want to buy clan mechs, who were staunch loyalists to the Inner Sphere. So when Community Warfare comes, they won't have any clan mechs, they'll just have Inner Sphere mechs. And to qualify for the King Crab in December, you would have had to have bought a top tier pack, and the only previous top tier pack was the Phoenix pack, which was going back away now. So there was no way for an Inner Sphere loyalist to plop down money for a top tier pack to be able to qualify. So they said, okay, we'll test the waters and see what people think, and I'm all for mech packs. I wouldn't mind a new mech pack to be announced every 3 months, provided the release schedule wasn't long after. I think this would create a continuous line of mechs that are being produced and coming out for people who don't buy the mech packs, and for the people who do buy the mech packs, they're the way that they support the game and creating more mechs and more maps and expanding it. So I'm fine with the mech pack idea. I know some people feel that features should be complete, and I agree that Community Warfare could do with actually turning up with a bit more stuff. We need more video. We need any video at this point. We need more screenshots, we need more updates, we need more information, basically. We're not really getting that information. We're sort of being left out with sort of these weird droughts of information. Obviously, the big thing they're going for now is the Quirk system, which will be to make, as I mentioned earlier, be to make mechs more based around the actual technical readouts, and then at the same time they want people to have the flexibility to build Inner Sphere mechs how they want, but you should really run the mechs like they are when you buy them. Oh, what the fuck. So yeah, I don't know. It remains to be seen how the Quirks are actually going to change things, whether they will have any impact at all, whether some mechs will just become insanely overpowered, or they'll completely unbalance the whole thing. Because I guess the logical step is, if the Inner Sphere get Quirks, then the clans should get Quirks. Or is it supposed to be that the Quirks are there to balance the Inner Sphere against clans? I have no idea. It's all very hazy at the moment. We don't know what's coming. We don't know when any of this stuff is actually going to appear. We're being told November, but it's such a big overhaul. I'm not sure if it'll actually arrive. They're aiming for November 4th for this Quirk content. But if it promotes people running a Shadowhawk with an AC5, a medium laser, an SRM2 and an LRM5, then I'm all for it. I'm not sure if it was requested by the community. I'm sure the competitive community would actually prefer more Gauss, more AC20, more ERPPC, blah, boring shit. And on the point of, in some of my videos I'll talk about the meta and I'll talk about my frustrations with it, and it's not, I'm frustrated with the system that allows players to do that, not the players themselves, because like any game, you want to play to win, and the way to win is to run what seems to work best, and that's the developer's fault. That's PGI's fault for giving players the tools to make weapon combinations that are that powerful, and they've tried to curb it, but they tried to curb it by layering new tertiary features on top. Like one of the initial issues was splatterpults, as they were called, which was basically a catapult that was equipped with like 6 SRM6s, and the thing would just run over to you and splat, and just cover you in missiles. And back then missiles did 2 damage, and they just ripped you apart. They tore you a new one. This is before armor values were doubled as well. So 6 SRM6s right into your CT. If it didn't kill you, it left you pretty fucked up. So they curbed SRMs. No, SRMs now do 1.5 damage each. Okay. So people started to look for a new way to alpha strike and kill people instantly. So the hunt was on, and it turned up in the form of the Stalker. And one of the builds of that was 6 standard PPCs. And basically, this thing would walk over a hill and vaporize you by doing 60 damage in a single shot. And most mechs just couldn't stand 60 damage. And again, if they did, there wasn't really much left of the mech. And it created situations where virtually at the beginning of a round you would lose a torso and some of your weapons, or you'd just be outright killed. It wasn't much fun. So they address this situation. They create Ghost Heat, and Ghost Heat was this system where if you sack more than one of a certain weapon up to a certain, so you could have 3 small lasers. This might not be a accurate one. But the idea was supposed to be you could have up to 3 small lasers and fire them all at once, and you'd have standard heat values. But if you went over the heat value of like 4 small lasers or 5 small lasers and fired them all at once, you would incur extra bonus heat on top of firing the weapon normally. And this was a mechanic to curb people basically boating one type of weapon and firing them all at once. And on paper, that seems to succeed, but unfortunately it then created the next problem, which was then, okay, let's just find a low heat weapon that has good range and can fire rapidly. Oh no. So people then found a new weapon in combination in the form of the Gauss rifle and PPCs, because generally you could fire 2 PPCs and not incur a heat penalty, and the Gauss rifle didn't have any heat. So then you had mechs running around with that, and they would still do, well, let's see, 35 alpha. That lasts quite a while, and people eventually get tired of this one, so PGI go, oh right, we'll do something else. So then they introduce a new feature. Now Gauss rifles have a charge time. You have to hold down the button and wait for a little green light to come on, then you release and it fires the round. Okay. So we've decoupled PPCs and Gauss firing at the same time. So then you're in a situation where it's like, okay, so then the players sit back and go, okay, how can I get around this so I could do tons of damage in one shot? Oh, I'll just mount 2 Gauss rifles because I can charge both of them at the same time and then do 30 alpha anyway. And that was the problem. It's just this trickle effect of players trying to outwit the developers, because the developers are adding features in to stop them from winning, rather than just going to the core of the problem and going, like, looking at that catapult and going, well, can we limit the number of weapons of that type, for instance? Yeah, you can have 6 missile slots, but maybe you can't have 4 of the same weapon type. So you couldn't have 4 SRMs in there. You could have 4 SRMs, but you can have 6. You could have an SRM2 of 4 and a 6, but you can have 3 6s or 3 4s or 3 2s. Something that would still allow players to put the weapon types that they wanted in the combinations they would have wanted, but without having to add all of these extra features on top of them again and again and again and again and again. It's completely inefficient. So I think this is what the Quirk system has eventually come around to being. The Quirk system is this catch-all. This is how we're going to fucking fix it. This is how we're going to get it back. So the Innisphere mechs are like Innisphere mechs are supposed to be, not these weird Franken mechs that are walking around that sort of look a bit like a... It looks like a Jaeger, but it's got 2 huge fucking AC-20 arms on it, which is not one a Jaeger mech has ever carried. Ever. Never. Look it up. There is no Jaeger with dual AC-20s. There is no Jaeger with dual Gauss. It just doesn't happen. So, quirks are meant to be seen. On the point of the mech pack, I like the mech pack. Quite happy with the mech pack. I'm happy with my wash. I think a lot of people who complain about mech pack fatigue are people who I think would like to buy them, but they don't have the money. And they then cry, oh, it's pay to win. But is it really pay to win? I mean, I'm not getting any special tech. If I buy a Panther, my Panther isn't any better than the Commando. Isn't any better than the Raven. In fact, it's probably less efficient. You know, I'm going to be running that Panther with a PPC and SRM4. That doesn't make me a powerhouse on the field. It just means I get a mech a bit earlier than you do. And you also have to remember that these packs are what keep the game running. Yeah, there's probably they generate a certain amount from mech credit purchases for people who need mech base and people who want colours and hero mechs and that. But by and large, it's a la carte and it's packs. They need to be expensive because they need to pay their bills, and I understand that from a business. I don't see people complaining about other free-to-play titles that have their own. I never remember hearing about the outrage of the premium tanks in World of Tanks. I never heard about the War Thunder rage. I mean, at least they're not locking out certain mechs that are only real money. You know, World of Tanks and War Thunder, for instance, lock out entire vehicles unless you drop cash to get them. And then there's no joy in upgrading them because they're already fully upgraded. And Mech Online, at least the only thing you're missing out on is a slightly different combination variant of a mech that exists in the game. And some of the hero mechs you can make out of the standard variants, it's just you don't get a Seeble bonus or the paint job. But honestly, I mean, at least we can get all the chassis. So I'm in favour of mech packs. I'm in favour of anything that keeps the game running, and I'm in favour of anything that that gives me more nostalgia. Clan or Innisphere, I'll buy the mech pack because I want to support the game and I do want to see it improve. I do want to see them pay off with the community warfare. I do want to see these things happen. It's just frustration these days. Hopefully one day I could talk about the game and be more positive and more energetic about it. I make the videos because I like the mechs. I make the videos because I like making the videos and I like getting the responses I get on them. I have ideas for things I want to do and I'm kind of limited. I mean, you've probably noticed that the videos are not that great. My editing software is Movie Maker 2012. I don't have software for doing it. I did buy some software and it didn't work. It didn't record the sound. I think that might have been a conflict with shadow play or something like that. So I'm pretty much running on very, very basic stuff here. I mean, it's difficult for me to be able to record footage and then edit and splice and stuff without a considerable time investment. So sometimes videos will just be very boring, and I'm sorry, top of my head I'm thinking the catapult video is not the best, and I do sometimes think about going back and redoing it and trying to record a match that's better, but at this point I'd rather get all the other stuff out of the way before I sort of delete an old one and bring a new one in. But yeah, what's your guys' views on the Resistance pack or mech packs in general? Do you like them? Do you hate them? What would you prefer? Do you think the quirks will be good? Do you think Community Warfare will actually appear this year? I mean, because I'm erring on it not. I'm erring on it appearing January or February. I just think we're getting into a real crunch period. Holidays coming up and stuff, and quite a rush for people to get what they need when they need it, that kind of crap, So yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. Tutorial's coming along. It'll be here hopefully pretty soon. So yeah, thanks, and have a good one, folks.